Jim Vandecoevering, Western Region Tech Service Manager with BASF. I live in the Boise, Idaho area and manage 10 tech service reps in the western U.S. for our U.S. crop group. What I really tried to get across today was thinking about the wheat crop a little differently. We typically talk about the growth stages that are important for various inputs within the crop, but today I really talked about the wheat as a factory and thinking about each one of those wheat plants as a mini factory, if you will, in the field. And we talk about how important for factories to have a good receiving end, a good assembly line, and a good warehouse for the inputs that go into that factory. Really the wheat plant's no different. We need to think about the receiving station or the receiving part of that factory as the root system in a lot of cases to really plant a high quality seed that has a good seed treatment on it with a variety that's adapted for the area for high yield. I talked a little bit today about the assembly line, if you will, and how important photosynthesis is. And there are really key critical stages of the crop, in this case tillering and jointing, which are important because the crop responds to resources or inputs very precisely in those areas. So we talked about herbicide applications at tillering and how important it is to protect that plant early from stresses, as well as protect those inputs we've applied to the crop. So those weeds are competing for light and water and fertility just like the crop is, and obviously we'd like to have them go to the crop instead of the weeds. So weed control is important, as well as fungicides are important at that stage too, because a lot of diseases can impact either as early as the tillering stage or at the joining stage. And the joining stage is critical because that wheat head is now, even though it's protected, it's emerged from the crown of the plant. So it can be identified at the joining stage. If you cut the stem open, you can find that developing head as early as the joining stage. So very critical from an assembly line standpoint, if you will, with that factory. Yeah, especially in the economy that we're in right now with wheat prices, it's very important. And so, again, one of the things I tried to get across was these stages are critical for development of the crop, but also for inputs. And if you are off in terms of timing, sometimes that can have a negative impact on that crop. And so it's important to understand those growth stages and what can and can't be applied at that particular timing, because we're really trying to maximize that factory, if you will, and ultimately increase or maximize or protect yield as much as possible. And the grower panel here today is very, very aware of conservation. They're trying to do the right thing to steward the land, but also they're in most of them family business. They're trying to, make a living. So trying to produce a crop using good stewardship practices, as well as the right inputs to maximize yield. They're all facing amazing challenges. It's certainly the hardest job on earth, in my opinion, to be a farmer, and probably one of the biggest, the riskiest jobs out there. But they're all doing a great job trying to maximize their yield production wherever they're at, regardless if it's Washington, Montana, or any other wheat producing state out there. I took away a couple key points that I never thought of from the farmer perspective, even though I deal with farmers all the time and grew up on a farm. They're living it day to day, obviously, and hearing them talking about, even within the geography we had represented here today, there was a lot of differences in how they approach crop production. So really great to get the insights from them on what they're doing differently on their farms. These are all pretty progressive growers, so they're really at the cutting edge of using technologies, and it was nice to hear they're looking for new technologies and new innovations coming out from basic manufacturers.